Hello everyone, and welcome to English Today Journey. I'm very happy you are here with me today. This is not just a place to practice English grammar or learn new words. This is also a space where we talk about ideas, feelings, and thoughts that shape who we are as people. Learning a language is not only about speaking correctly. It is also about understanding yourself and understanding others better. In today's episode, we are talking about a topic that is simple but very powerful. It connects language learning with self-awareness and emotional understanding. If you want to grow in your life, maybe in your career, in your relationships, or simply as a human being, this topic is very important for you. Today, we will focus on understanding your needs, your wishes, and your expectations. At first, these words may sound serious or complicated. You might think they belong in psychology books or self-help talks. But the truth is, they are part of your everyday life. Even if you don't think about them, they are always there. Every decision you make, every conversation you have, and every time you feel happy, sad, excited, or frustrated is connected to what you need, what you want, and what you expect. The problem is that many of us do not stop to think about these things. Life moves very fast. We are busy with work, school, family, responsibilities, and future plans. We wake up, do our tasks, and go to bed. We try to do our best every day, but we often live on autopilot. We do not pause and listen to what is happening inside us.
So, let me ask you something.
When was the last time you asked yourself questions like, what do I really need right now? What am I wishing for? What am I expecting from myself, from other people, or from life? These are simple questions, but they are very powerful. When we don't ask them, we can slowly start living according to other people's expectations instead of our own. We may follow goals that look good on the outside, but do not truly make us happy inside. We might try to meet standards that do not match who we really are. When this happens, frustration starts to grow. You may feel tired even when you rest. You may work harder and harder, but still feel empty or unsatisfied. This is often how burnout begins. You're doing many things, but you don't feel fulfilled because your real needs and wishes are not being heard. Understanding yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. When you know what you need, what you want, and what you expect, you can make better choices. You can communicate more clearly. You can set healthy boundaries. And you can live a life that feels more meaningful and balanced. This journey of understanding yourself is very important not only for personal growth, but also for learning English. Language is about expressing thoughts and emotions. The better you understand yourself, the better you can express yourself, in English and in life. So, as we continue this journey together, remember to slow down sometimes. Listen to your inner voice. Ask yourself honest questions. Small moments of self-awareness can create big changes in your life. From a language learning point of view, understanding your needs, wishes, and expectations is also a very important skill. It helps you talk about your emotions and your inner world in a clear, honest, and natural way. Language is not only for giving information. It is also for sharing feelings, thoughts, and experiences. When you can do that well, your English becomes stronger and more meaningful. Think about how often people say very short and common sentences like, I'm tired, I'm fine, or I'm okay. These sentences are not wrong, but they are very basic. They do not really explain what is happening inside a person. Many times, they hide more than they show. A person may say, I'm fine, but inside they may feel stressed, lonely, or confused. Now imagine saying something more specific, such as, I'm feeling disconnected, or I wish I could slow down, or I'm trying to manage my expectations. These sentences give much more information. They show emotion. They sound more natural and real. This is how fluent English speakers often communicate, especially when they talk about personal challenges, work stress, or emotional struggles. They use language to explain what they feel, not just to answer quickly. If your goal is to speak English not only correctly but honestly, this kind of emotional vocabulary is very helpful. It helps you sound more confident and more natural. People can understand you better, and you can understand yourself better too. When you have the words to describe your feelings, you feel less confused and more in control. There is also an important cultural side to this topic. In some cultures, talking openly about your needs or setting personal boundaries may feel uncomfortable. It might even be seen as selfish or rude. In other cultures, it is normal and encouraged to say what you need and how you feel. Neither way is completely right or wrong. They are just different ways of thinking. So when you explore your own needs, wishes, and expectations, you are not only learning new English words. You are also learning how your culture, your family, and your society have shaped the way you think and speak about emotions. This kind of understanding is very powerful. It helps you see why you react in certain ways and why some conversations feel easy or difficult for you. This episode is an invitation to reflect. Take a moment to ask yourself some honest questions. What beliefs did I learn from my family or my culture? Which of these beliefs still help me today? Which ones no longer serve me and might need to change? These questions do not have quick answers, and that is okay. As we go through this topic together, I invite you to be both a language learner and a life learner. Listen carefully to the words and expressions, but also pay attention to what you feel inside as you hear them. If something feels important, pause for a moment. Think about it. Write notes if that helps you. There is no need to rush. This is not about perfect grammar or perfect pronunciation. It is about understanding yourself more deeply through language. By the end of this episode, my hope is that you'll have a clearer understanding of yourself and feel more confident expressing your thoughts and feelings in English and in life. By the end of this part, my hope is that you will have a better understanding of English expressions related to emotions and reflection, and also a clearer sense of your own needs, wishes, and expectations. These three things strongly shape how you think, how you act, and how you move through your daily life. So before we continue, take a slow, deep breath. Relax your body and your mind, and get ready to learn. There is no pressure here. This is a calm space for growth and understanding. Now, let's begin by clearly defining our important trio: needs, wishes, and expectations. Let's slow down for a moment and really look at these three words. We use them very often in daily life. We use them when we talk to friends, when we argue with someone, when we make plans, when we set goals, or when we think about things that went wrong in the past. These words appear in our thoughts all the time. However, most of the time, we do not stop to think about what they truly mean in our own lives. When we take the time to understand these words more deeply, something interesting happens. Life starts to make more sense. Our emotions feel less confusing. We begin to understand why we react in certain ways and why some situations affect us so strongly. This kind of understanding helps us become calmer and more aware of ourselves. Let's start with the first and most basic word: needs. A need is something essential. It is something you cannot live well without. When people hear the word need, they often think only about physical things like food, water, or sleep. Of course, these are very important, but needs are not only physical. We also have emotional and psychological needs, and these are just as important. For example, we need to feel safe. We need to feel seen and heard. We need to feel accepted, respected, and loved. We need to feel that we belong somewhere and that we matter. These needs may not be visible, but they are powerful. They shape our emotions, our behavior, and even our health. Needs are like oxygen. When they are being met, we do not always notice them. Life feels normal. But when one important need is not met, it becomes very hard to ignore. Think about times when you feel constantly tired, anxious, irritated, disconnected, or uncomfortable for no clear reason. Very often, these feelings are signs that one of your deeper needs is not being taken care of. Maybe you need rest. Maybe you need connection. Maybe you need understanding or emotional support. Here is something very important to remember. Unmet needs do not disappear. They do not simply go away on their own. Instead, they often show up in other ways. They may appear as frustration, anger, procrastination, lack of motivation, or a strange feeling that something is wrong, even when everything looks fine on the outside. This is why understanding your needs is not just helpful, it is necessary. When you recognize what you truly need, you can respond to yourself with more kindness. You can make better choices, communicate more clearly, and take better care of your emotional well-being. Understanding your needs is the first step toward a healthier and more balanced life. Understanding your needs is not just helpful, it is essential. It is the foundation of everything else in your life. If your basic needs are ignored or not met, then everything you build on top of them can start to feel weak or unstable. This includes your goals, your relationships, and even your achievements. On the outside, you may look successful, busy, or accomplished. But on the inside, you may still feel empty, stressed, or unbalanced. That is why needs always come first. They support everything else. Now, let's move to the second word, wishes. If needs are like oxygen, then wishes are like stars in the sky. You do not need stars to survive, but they give you direction. They inspire you. They remind you that life can be more than just getting through the day. A wish is something you want or hope for. It is something that adds meaning, joy, or beauty to your life, even if it is not absolutely necessary. You might wish for a better job, more free time, or a chance to travel. You might wish to find love, to feel more confident, or to become a better version of yourself. Wishes speak to the hopeful part of us. They come from our dreams, our imagination, and our desire for growth. Some wishes are big and bold. Others are small, quiet, and personal. Some wishes change over time. Others stay with us for many years, quietly reminding us of what we care about. All of this is normal. Having wishes does not make you weak or unrealistic. It makes you human. Your wishes often show what you truly value. They reveal what matters most to your heart. However, this is where things can become confusing. Sometimes we mix up wishes and needs. For example, we may start to believe that we need approval from others in order to feel worthy. Or we may believe we need success, money, or status to feel good about ourselves. When this happens, our inner balance becomes unclear. We may start chasing things that look important but do not truly satisfy us in the long run. That is why it is very important to know the difference between what you truly need for your well-being and what you simply desire. Wishes are beautiful and meaningful, but they should not replace your basic emotional needs. Now, let's talk about the third and final word, expectations. Expectations are often the most complicated of the three. They are not only about what you want or need. They are about what you believe should happen. Expectations live in your mind, and they strongly influence how you feel. Sometimes expectations are clear and conscious. For example, you may expect a friend to reply to your message. You may expect your hard work to be recognized. You may expect things to go according to plan. When these expectations are met, you feel calm or satisfied. But when they are not met, you may feel disappointed, hurt, or angry. Other times, expectations are hidden. You may not even realize you have them, but they still affect your emotions and reactions. Understanding your expectations helps you understand why certain situations upset you more than others. When you learn to clearly see your needs, your wishes, and your expectations, life becomes easier to understand. You stop blaming yourself or others so much. You gain clarity, balance, and emotional awareness. This understanding helps you move through life with more calm, honesty, and confidence. Hard work to be noticed. Other times, expectations are unconscious. This means you are not fully aware of them. They are quietly shaped by your past, your family, your culture, and your life experiences. You may not remember where an expectation came from, but it still lives inside you and affects how you think
and feel.
Your expectations might come from the way you were raised, the rules you learned as a child, or the messages society gave you about success, relationships, or happiness. They can also come from past experiences at school, at work, or in friendships. Over time, these expectations become part of how you see the world. They influence how you see yourself, how you judge others, and how you react when things do not go the way you imagined. Expectations can be helpful, but they can also be painful. On one hand, they can motivate you. They help you set goals, create standards, and protect your boundaries. On the other hand, when expectations are too high, too rigid, or unrealistic, they can easily lead to disappointment, frustration, or emotional hurt. The problem is not having expectations. The problem is having expectations that you never question. That is why understanding your expectations is so important. When you begin to ask where your expectations come from, you gain more self-awareness. You can start to see which expectations truly help you and which ones quietly cause stress. This understanding helps you communicate more clearly, make fairer judgments, and live with more emotional balance. So let's summarize everything in a simple way. Needs are your foundation. They are what keep you healthy, grounded, and emotionally stable. Without them, nothing else feels solid. Wishes are your dreams. They give your life color, hope, and direction. They show you what you value and what your heart longs for. Expectations are your beliefs about what should happen. They are often shaped by your past, your culture, and your experiences, and they strongly influence how you react to life. When you begin to see these three clearly, you start to understand yourself on a deeper level. And this understanding can slowly change the way you live, the way you speak, and the way you connect with other people. Expectations, especially, are like an invisible script running quietly in the background of your mind. Most of the time, you do not even realize it is there. You only notice it when reality does not match the script. That is when strong emotions appear. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever expected someone to reply to your message quickly and felt upset when they did not? Or maybe you expected something at school or work to go smoothly, and when it didn't, you felt discouraged or defeated. That emotional reaction often comes from an expectation you did not even know you had. This is how expectations work. They sneak in silently. They shape your reactions before you have time to think. They can turn a small situation into a big emotional moment if you are not aware of them. But expectations are not always bad. Healthy expectations can help you grow, protect your time, and understand what you deserve. The key is awareness. When you notice your expectations, you gain choice. You can decide whether to adjust them, communicate them, or let them go. By understanding your needs, wishes, and expectations, you create a more honest relationship with yourself. And from that place of honesty, life becomes clearer, calmer, and more balanced. Expectations can help us plan, prepare, and move forward in life. They give structure to our days and motivation to our actions. When expectations are healthy and realistic, they support us. They help us stay focused and organized. However, when expectations become too strict or unrealistic, they can quietly trap us. We may stop looking at what is actually happening and instead judge our happiness based on what we thought should have happened. This can lead to constant disappointment, even when many things are going well. Now, let's bring all three ideas together in a simple way. Needs are what keep you going. They support your emotional and mental health. They help you feel stable, safe, and balanced. Wishes are what light you up inside. They inspire you and give your life color, meaning, and hope. Expectations are what you believe should happen. They are your predictions, assumptions, or sometimes even demands about how life or people should behave. These three ideas often overlap, and that is where confusion begins. For example, you might expect to be appreciated at work. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, is this really an expectation? Or is it a wish to feel valued? Or maybe it comes from a deeper need for respect and recognition. Another example could be relationships. You might wish to be in a relationship, but is that wish hiding a deeper need for emotional safety, connection, or belonging? Or is it influenced by social expectations about where you think you should be in life at a certain age? When needs, wishes, and expectations mix together without clarity, we can feel lost or frustrated. We may chase the wrong things or feel unhappy without knowing why. That is why learning to separate these three ideas is so powerful. The more clearly you can tell them apart, the more empowered you become. When you know what you truly need, you can focus your energy on what really matters for your well-being. When you understand what you genuinely wish for, you can dream freely, without guilt, pressure, or comparison. And when you recognize your expectations for what they truly are, not facts but assumptions, you can face life with more flexibility and kindness. This awareness helps you become more compassionate, not only toward yourself, but also toward others. You stop expecting people to read your mind. You communicate more clearly. You react with less anger and more understanding. Life feels lighter when expectations loosen and awareness grows. Now, before we go deeper into this topic, let's take a short language moment. Notice how many abstract nouns we have been using. Words like belonging, safety, recognition, disappointment, and fulfillment. These are not things you can see or touch. You cannot hold them in your hands. But they describe very real emotional experiences that live inside you. Learning these kinds of words is one of the most beautiful parts of improving your English. At a higher level, language is not only about describing actions or objects. It is about describing inner experiences. It allows you to explain what you feel, what you hope for, and what you expect from life. When you learn words for emotions and reflection, you gain power. You no longer feel confused inside without knowing why. You can name your feelings. You can understand them. And when you can put your inner world into words, you feel more confident, more honest, and more connected, both in English and in life. This is not just language learning. This is self-understanding through language. This is what powerful communication really looks like. It is honest, clear, and connected to your inner world. So, here is a small reflection for you. Try to think about one current need, one honest wish, and one hidden expectation in your life right now. Take your time with this. There is no rush and there are no perfect answers. Sometimes clarity does not come from knowing everything. It starts simply by asking better and more honest questions. Now let's go deeper into the first and most important part, the power of needs. If we truly want to understand ourselves with honesty and clarity, we must begin at the base, our needs. These are not small things you can easily ignore or postpone. They are not optional. They are present with you every single day, whether you are aware of them or not. These are the things you cannot grow or thrive without. When your needs are not met for a long time, it affects more than just your energy. Slowly, your motivation starts to fade. Your confidence becomes weaker. Your patience gets shorter. Even your ability to connect with other people begins to suffer. You may feel distant, tired, or emotionally flat without fully understanding why. You may have heard of something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is a psychological idea that is often taught in schools and used in personal growth. Even if the name sounds unfamiliar, the idea itself is very easy to understand. Imagine a pyramid with different levels. At the very bottom are your basic physical needs. These include air, food, water, sleep, and shelter. These needs are non-negotiable. If they are not met, your body and mind move into survival mode. It becomes very hard to focus, learn, or feel calm when these basic needs are missing. Above that level is safety. This does not only mean physical safety. It also includes financial stability, health, and emotional security. When you do not feel safe, your body stays tense and alert. You cannot relax, create, or think clearly when you are always worried or afraid. The next level is love and belonging. This is your need to connect with others. It is the need to feel cared for, accepted, and included. Humans are social beings. We need relationships, friendships, and emotional connection. Without them, Loneliness can slowly take over, even if everything else in life seems fine. Above that comes esteem. This includes feeling respected, capable, and valued. It is about believing that you matter and that what you do has meaning. When this need is met, you feel more confident and motivated. When it is not, self-doubt and insecurity often appear. At the very top of the pyramid is self-actualization. This is the desire to grow, to create, and to become the best version of yourself. It is about learning, expressing yourself, and living with purpose. What is beautiful about this model is how each level depends on the one below it. You cannot truly focus on growth, creativity, or purpose if your basic needs are not being met. You cannot climb higher if the foundation is weak. This is why understanding your needs is so important. Needs are not a luxury. They are the base of everything. When you care for your needs, you create stability. And from that stability, confidence, clarity, and growth naturally begin to follow. If your basic or emotional needs are being ignored, real growth becomes very difficult. This reminds us of something very important. Growth does not always mean pushing yourself harder or doing more. Very often, growth means slowing down and taking care of what is missing at the foundation of your life. When the base is strong, everything else becomes easier to build. At the top of Maslow's hierarchy sits something deeply human. It is the desire to become the best version of yourself, whatever that means for you personally. It is that quiet inner feeling that pushes you to grow, to learn new things, to create, and to live a life that feels meaningful. This desire is not loud or demanding. It is gentle, but powerful. It reminds you that life can be more than routines and responsibilities. Now, here is something very interesting and very relevant to the modern world. Today, many people have their basic physical needs met. We have food in the fridge, a place to sleep, and a certain level of safety. Most of us are not worried about survival every single day. And yet, many people still feel empty, lost, or dissatisfied inside. Why does this happen? Very often, it is because while physical needs are being met, emotional and psychological needs are not. And these needs are just as important. They decide whether we are truly living or simply surviving. A life that looks comfortable on the outside can still feel heavy and unfulfilling on the inside. Let's look at one very important emotional need: connection. We live in a time where it has never been easier to stay in touch with others. You can send a message in seconds. You can share photos instantly. You can talk to someone on the other side of the world with one click. Technology makes communication fast and easy. But despite all this, many people feel deeply lonely. This is because real connection is not the same as digital interaction. Real connection means feeling truly seen, heard, and understood. It means emotional presence. It means sharing time, trust, and attention with another person. It is about those moments when you feel that someone is really there with you, not just replying, reacting, or scrolling. Liking a post, sending a quick message, or leaving a comment cannot fully replace that kind of connection. When our need for real human connection is not met, life can start to feel empty or disconnected, even if everything looks fine from the outside. You may be busy, social, and active, but still feel alone inside. Now, let's talk about another powerful human need: recognition. Recognition is not about fame, popularity, or being the center of attention. It is much simpler and more human than that. It is the need to be acknowledged. It is the need to feel that your efforts matter, that what you do has value, and that someone notices and appreciates it. This need shows up in many areas of life. At work, you may want your hard work to be recognized. In relationships, you may want your care and effort to be seen. When this need is ignored for a long time, people often start to feel invisible, unmotivated, or emotionally tired. When emotional needs like connection and recognition are not met, they do not disappear. Just like physical needs, they ask for attention. They show up as sadness, frustration, emptiness, or a feeling that something is missing. This is why understanding your needs is so important. It helps you stop blaming yourself for feeling ungrateful or weak. It helps you see that your feelings are often signals, not problems. Signals that something important inside you needs care. When you listen to those signals with honesty and kindness, you move closer to balance, clarity, and a more meaningful life. Our struggles, our efforts, and our growth all need to be noticed and valued. This is a deep human need that affects many parts of our lives, especially our work and our relationships. Think about the workplace for a moment. You might have a stable job. You show up every day, meet deadlines, solve problems, and help things run smoothly. On the outside, everything looks fine. But if you keep giving your energy and no one ever notices, if no one says thank you or acknowledges your effort, something slowly begins to change inside you. You may start to feel invisible. Burnout can appear very quickly in this situation. You may still complete your tasks, but emotionally, something begins to shut down. Your motivation fades. Your excitement disappears. You may even start asking yourself, does any of this really matter? This is the power of unmet emotional needs. They do not only affect your mood. Over time, they shape how you see yourself. They influence your confidence, your sense of value, and your purpose in life. When recognition is missing for too long, people often stop believing in themselves, even if they are capable and hardworking. Sometimes our needs are ignored by other people, but very often we ignore our own needs too. Many of us grow up with messages we don't even question. We are taught that needing too much makes us weak, selfish, or dependent. In some cultures, people are praised for being strong, independent, and self-sufficient. Not needing help is seen as something to be proud of. But the truth is simple and important. No one is completely self-sufficient. Human beings are social and emotional by nature. We all need care, affection, encouragement, and support. This is not a weakness. It is part of being human. Wanting connection or recognition does not mean there is something wrong with you. It means you are alive and emotionally aware. Acknowledging your needs does not make you weak. It makes you honest. And honesty is the starting point for real growth. When you are honest about what you need, you give others a chance to understand you better. You also give yourself permission to take care of your inner world. This is how deeper relationships are built, through openness, not silence. It is also important to remember that your needs are not fixed forever. They change as you change. The needs you had at May 20th look very different from the needs you have at 30 or 40. Life experiences shape your inner world. Moving to a new country, starting a new job, losing someone you love, becoming a parent, or simply growing older, all of these experiences change what you need emotionally. Sometimes these new needs are very clear. Other times they are harder to understand. You may not be able to name them right away. Instead, you might just feel that something is off. You may feel restless, tired, disconnected, or quietly dissatisfied. You may feel a longing you cannot explain. These feelings are not random. They are often signals. They are messages from unmet needs trying to get your attention. When needs are ignored, they speak through emotions. They show up in how you react to small situations, how patient or impatient you feel, how close or distant you feel from others, and how satisfied or empty life feels overall. Learning to listen to these signals is an important skill. It does not mean you immediately fix everything. It simply means you pause, reflect, and ask yourself honest questions. What might I be missing right now? What do I need more of?
Rest? Support?
Recognition?
Connection?
When you begin to treat your needs with respect instead of judgment, something shifts. You become kinder to yourself. You stop pushing yourself endlessly. And slowly, you begin to build a life that feels more balanced, more meaningful, and more emotionally alive. How you feel at the end of the day is closely connected to whether your needs are being met. From a language learning perspective, being able to express your needs clearly is not just useful, it is empowering. It changes how you communicate, how people understand you, and even how you understand yourself. Think about the difference in these examples. Instead of simply saying, "I'm not okay," you could say, "I'm feeling overwhelmed because I need more clarity." Instead of saying, "I'm angry," you could say, "I need to feel respected in this conversation." Do you see the difference? By naming your needs specifically, you are not only expressing your emotions, you are communicating understanding. You move from reacting automatically to reflecting intentionally. This is a huge step in both language learning and personal growth. These types of phrases use what we call emotional precision. Emotional precision is the ability to describe your inner world clearly and specifically. It is a skill that takes practice, not only in English, but even in your first language. But once you start practicing it, your communication changes. You begin to speak more clearly, honestly, and compassionately. Instead of expressing only the surface emotion, like anger or sadness, you describe what is really happening inside you. This clarity strengthens your relationships, your confidence, and your self-understanding. Now, let's look at some common phrases and word combinations, collocations, often used when talking about needs. Meet a need. Fulfill a need. Identify an unmet need. Address a basic need. In more formal or professional contexts, you might see, her emotional needs were being overlooked. His psychological needs were not being acknowledged. Notice something important about these examples. They often use the passive voice, especially when describing needs that have been ignored or forgotten. For example, his need for support was completely dismissed. Using the passive voice in this way allows you to talk about sensitive or abstract topics gently and professionally. It is a subtle tool that helps you sound fluent and natural when discussing emotions, relationships, or well-being. The key takeaway is this. By learning to name needs clearly, you are not only improving your English, you are learning to understand yourself better. You are practicing honesty, reflection, and emotional clarity. This skill can transform both your personal life and your ability to communicate effectively in English. When you can say exactly what you need, you stop leaving others guessing. You stop reacting with frustration or confusion. Instead, you create understanding and connection. And that is one of the most powerful tools in language learning and in life. As we finish this section about needs, I wanted to take a moment for reflection. Ask yourself, what is one need in your life right now that is quietly asking for attention? Not loudly, not demanding anything, just gently waiting for you to notice it. It might be a need for rest. It could be the need for an honest conversation with someone. Perhaps it is the need to feel safer, more accepted, or more seen. Whatever it is, take a moment to name it. Once a need is named, it can be understood. And once it is understood, it can start to be met. Now let's gently shift our focus from needs, what we require to survive, to wishes, what we hope for to feel truly alive. If needs are the solid ground beneath your feet, then wishes are the open sky above your head. Wishes are the part of you that dreams, imagines, and looks forward. Unlike needs, wishes are not essential for survival, but they are essential for meaning. They carry hope, inspire growth, and remind us that life has more to offer. Wishes point to possibility and the future, connecting you to what could be. When we talk about wishes in English, we often use phrases like, "I wish I could," or "if only I had." These examples use something called the subjunctive mood, a structure for speaking about things that are not yet real. For example, I wish I spoke Italian fluently. I wish I had taken more risks in my 20s. These statements are not facts. They are expressions of longing, moments when your heart reaches towards something that does not exist yet, but that you hope for deeply. That feeling of longing is profoundly human. It quietly reminds you that a part of you is still growing, still curious, still searching for something more. I remember a time several years ago when I felt stuck in a safe but uninspiring routine. On the outside, everything looked fine. A steady job, daily structure, a predictable life. But inside, I felt a quiet wish rising. It was subtle at first, a small tug in my heart. I wished for something more meaningful, something that sparked excitement and curiosity. Even though life seemed stable and successful on the surface, my inner self was pointing toward growth and possibility. This is the essence of wishes. They are not demands or urgent needs. They are gentle, quiet, but persistent reminders of who we are and who we might become. By noticing and naming your wishes, you give them space to grow. You connect with what excites and inspires you. You acknowledge that life is not only about surviving, it is also about dreaming, exploring, and reaching for something beyond the everyday. In the next step, we will explore how wishes connect with expectations and how understanding all three, needs, wishes, and expectations, can transform the way you live, feel, and communicate in English and in life. A wish isn't always loud or dramatic. Often, it is just a soft, quiet thought whispering, "What if there's something more?" That's the real power of a wish. It's not necessarily about immediately getting what you want. Sometimes it's about noticing what your heart is trying to tell you and giving it attention. Every day can feel routine. Wake up, go to work, commute, handle responsibilities, come home, repeat. Nothing seems terrible. Everything looks fine on the outside, but inside, something might feel dull, uninspired, or flat. That's when wishes quietly appear. I remember a time when my life looked perfectly normal from the outside, but I felt a small, persistent thought rising again and again. It wasn't loud. It didn't demand immediate action. It was more like a gentle song in the background. The thought said, "I wish I could work on something more meaningful. I wish I could create something of my own." That wish didn't shout or push me aggressively, but because it stayed, it gradually started guiding me. Over time, it led to small, intentional actions. Reading more, planning, learning new skills, imagining a different path. Change didn't happen overnight, but the moment I allowed myself to imagine a different kind of future, that quiet wish became the start of growth. This is the essence of wishing. A wish gives you a place to begin. It acts like a compass pointing toward possibilities, even if the steps are small or slow. Not every wish becomes reality, and that's okay. Wishing is closely tied to imagination and fantasy. You might wish to live by the ocean, travel the world, be famous, or undo a past mistake. Some of these wishes may come true. Others may remain only in your imagination. But here's the important part. Even an unrealistic wish is meaningful. Every wish reflects your values, what you consider beautiful or important, and what might be missing in your life. For example, when someone says, "I wish I had more time," they may really be expressing a wish for balance, peace, or space to breathe. When someone says, "I wish I could speak freely at work," what they are really saying is that they want honesty, respect, or the courage to express themselves. A wish is a signal from your inner self. It tells you what matters to you, what inspires you, and what could make life feel fuller. It is not a demand or a list of goals. It is a gentle, persistent invitation to notice what your heart truly wants and to start moving toward it, one small step at a time. Wishes guide growth, creativity, and self-discovery. They help you connect with what excites you, what gives your life meaning, and what you truly value. Even quiet wishes, the ones that barely make a sound, can quietly reshape your life if you pay attention. Every wish, no matter how small, has a story behind it. Even everyday wishes, the ones we often say without thinking, reflect something deeper inside us. For example, "I wish I could sleep in tomorrow," "I wish I were more confident," or "I wish I hadn't said that." These aren't just random thoughts. They are quiet messages from your inner self. They are tiny signals about what your heart really wants, what you might be missing, or what you hope to feel. Wishes often connect to our needs. A wish for more confidence might really be a wish for respect or safety. A wish to sleep longer might really mean a need for rest or calm. Even small, Simple wishes reveal something important about our emotional life. They are like little clues pointing toward what matters to us. This is also where conditional thinking appears. You know those if only thoughts? They often sound like, if I had more money, I'd quit my job, or if I lived somewhere else, I'd be happier. These thoughts can be useful because they help us imagine new possibilities. They can motivate us to take action or dream bigger. But they can also trap us if we start believing that happiness only exists in the future under perfect conditions. If you always wait for the perfect time, the perfect place, or the perfect opportunity, you may end up waiting forever. There is a delicate balance between imagining a better life and living a life you already have. Wishes are not just about reaching a goal, they're about noticing what your heart wants right now. They remind you that life can change and that you have the power to imagine something different. Everyone carries a collection of wishes inside. Some are bold and ambitious. Some are quiet and private. Some are old dreams from childhood, and others are brand new. Not every wish needs to come true for it to matter. Even imagining something different can give you energy, hope, and clarity. A simple act of imagining reminds you that you are not stuck and that a more fulfilling life is possible. When you pay attention to your wishes, even quietly, your inner voice says, "There is more for you." Listening to that voice can guide you toward personal growth, better choices, and meaningful change. From a language learning perspective, expressing wishes is a powerful skill. When you learn to talk about your hopes, regrets, and dreams, you are not just practicing grammar. You are learning emotional fluency, the ability to share your inner world with others. In English, we often use the word wish in different ways to express these feelings. For example, we might say, "I wish I had," "I wish I could," or "I wish it were different." Each sentence allows us to show longing, hope, or reflection in a very personal way. Learning to express wishes clearly does more than improve your English. It helps you connect with yourself and with others. When you say, "I wish I could speak more confidently," or "I wish I had more time for myself," you're not just speaking, you're sharing what really matters to you. And that makes your language and your life more honest, meaningful, and alive. Wishes, big or small, are gentle reminders of our growth. They show us what we value, what we hope for, and what might be missing. They are not demands or complaints, they are signals. They tell us to pay attention, to imagine, and to move forward in ways that feel authentic. Even a quiet wish can guide your choices and actions if you notice it, respect it, and let it influence your life. When we talk about wishes in English, we usually use them in a few main ways. One common pattern is, "I wish I had." This is usually about the past. We use it to show regret or longing for something that didn't happen. For example, "I wish I had listened more carefully." This phrase tells a story, a memory, or an emotion from the past. It allows you to express feelings honestly and reflect on your experiences. Another pattern is, "I wish I could," or "I wish I were." These sentences talk about things that are not true right now, but that we want to be true. For example, "I wish I could play the guitar," or "I wish I were more confident when speaking English." These structures are not only useful in casual conversation. You can also use them in journaling, storytelling, coaching, or even poetry. They help you share your feelings clearly and imaginatively. As you practice expressing wishes, you can also try using more expressive words instead of the simple word want. Words like long for, yearn for, dream of, hope for, or envision make your sentences richer and more emotional. For example, instead of saying, "I want to travel," you could say, "I dream of traveling," or "I yearn to explore new places." These alternatives help your language feel deeper and more precise, showing not just what you desire, but also how strongly you feel about it. Here's a reflection question for you. What is one wish you've quietly carried for a long time but haven't fully acknowledged? Maybe it's a wish for a new direction in life, a creative project, or personal growth. Maybe it's a wish to forgive someone, or even to forgive yourself. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to notice it. You don't have to act on it immediately. Just acknowledging it is powerful. Every wish, even the small or quiet ones, tells you something true about who you are and who you are becoming. Give yourself space to imagine it, without planning, analyzing, or judging it. Let yourself simply sit with the wish and notice it. Wishing is not weakness. It's a form of self-recognition. It's a way of being honest with yourself about what matters to you, even if you're not ready to take action yet. Recognizing your wishes is an important step in understanding yourself and your inner world. It connects you to your dreams, your hopes, and your personal growth. This brings us to the next idea: expectations. Expectations are like an invisible script running in the background of your mind. They shape how you see yourself, how you interact with others, and how you respond when life doesn't go as planned. Understanding your expectations, along with your needs and wishes, gives you deeper clarity about your life, your choices, and how you communicate in English and in your personal life. Now let's talk about something many of us carry without noticing: expectations. Expectations are like an invisible script running quietly in the background of our minds. They shape how we think, how we act, how we treat other people, and, most importantly, how we treat ourselves. Unlike needs or wishes, expectations often feel automatic. We rarely stop to ask ourselves, where did this expectation come from? Does it really help me? Even if we don't notice them, expectations shape our lives. Sometimes they support us, giving structure and motivation. Other times, they quietly drain our energy and affect our well-being. At their core, expectations are beliefs about how things should be, how life should unfold, how others should act, or how we should behave. That word "should" is central. We often say things like, "I should be more productive," "he should have known better," or "I should have figured it out." On the surface, these sentences seem reasonable or motivating. But underneath, they create invisible pressure, a quiet voice saying, "You're not doing enough. You're behind. You're not where you should be." Many of our expectations are not chosen consciously. They come from the world around us: our culture, family, school, religion, and media. We learn messages like, "Success means financial stability," "Real men don't cry," or "Always put others first." Even if these words were never said directly, we felt them in the way people praised or criticized us, in the rules we were expected to follow. Over time, these messages become part of our internal script, the invisible rules we try to live by without realizing it. One listener shared a story that illustrates this perfectly. She said, "I grew up believing that if I wasn't constantly achieving something, I was wasting my potential. That belief wasn't mine. It was shaped by my family and teachers. But it became a voice in my head that never let me rest." This shows how expectations can feel normal and even helpful at first, but over time, they can create stress, guilt, or frustration when reality doesn't match the script. Expectations can also affect our relationships. When we expect people to act a certain way, we might feel disappointed, frustrated, or hurt if they don't. Sometimes we expect ourselves to always succeed, always be happy, or always meet impossible standards. When we can recognize these invisible rules, we start to see which expectations serve us and which ones hold us back. The first step in understanding expectations is noticing them. Ask yourself, which beliefs about how I should act or feel are really mine? Which ones come from my family, culture, or past experiences? Some expectations motivate us in healthy ways, helping us set goals and boundaries. Others create invisible pressure, making life feel heavier than it should. By noticing this, we can choose which expectations to keep, which to adjust, and which to let go. Expectations are powerful because they guide behavior, but they are also flexible. They are not facts, they are assumptions. Recognizing this allows us to respond with more compassion to ourselves and others. When we learn to separate our needs, wishes, and expectations, we gain clarity about our lives. We start living with more awareness, making decisions that truly reflect who we are, rather than just following invisible rules. Expectations can feel like a heavy weight, especially when they are not something we consciously chose. Often, they are inherited from family, culture, or society, like an old family heirloom passed down through generations. At first, we may not notice them, but over time, they can feel heavy and restrictive. No matter how much we accomplish, we might still feel behind or never good enough. That's the tricky thing about expectations. They create a gap between who we really are and who we think we should be. The wider this gap grows, the harder it becomes to feel content or at peace with ourselves. In professional life, expectations can feel even stronger. You may be expected to be efficient, ambitious, emotionally intelligent, collaborative, and independent, all at once. Depending on your workplace, there may also be unspoken rules about how you should talk, behave, or present yourself. Even if you are doing your job well, unrealistic or conflicting expectations can quietly create stress, anxiety, and self-doubt. The pressure grows when the expectations around you clash with your personal values. You may start questioning your worth or feel like you are constantly falling short, even when your performance is objectively good. Sometimes the hardest expectations come from within. These are the standards we set for ourselves. I should be better by now. I should never make mistakes. I should always be in control. At first, they may feel like discipline or motivation, but often they are a form of self-criticism. They keep us chasing an ideal version of ourselves, an image of who we think we are supposed to be. And when we fail to live up to this ideal, we feel guilt, shame, or a sense of unworthiness. We compare ourselves to others online, to our past selves, or to imagined versions of who we think we should have become. Most of the time, we don't even pause to ask, is this expectation fair? Is it realistic?
Does it truly belong to me?
These inner expectations can quietly shape how we think, speak, and act. They influence our emotions and even the language we use. For example, when we constantly tell ourselves, I should do better, we may also start using words that reflect pressure and judgment instead of curiosity and growth. Recognizing these invisible rules is the first step in gaining clarity and control. Once we see them, we can start asking, which expectations truly serve me? Which ones are borrowed from others? Which ones are holding me back? Understanding our expectations, both external and internal, helps us communicate more clearly and respond to life with balance. When we separate our needs, wishes, and expectations, we gain insight into ourselves. Needs show what sustains us. Wishes show what inspires us. Expectations show what we believe should happen, even if it isn't always fair or realistic. The more we notice these expectations, the more freedom we have to choose which ones to follow and which ones to release. This awareness helps reduce stress, increase self-compassion, and improve how we relate to others. By observing expectations without judgment, we stop being trapped by invisible rules and start living more authentically. We learn to act from our true values, rather than reacting to pressures passed down by others or imposed by ourselves. This is not about ignoring goals or ambition. It's about creating space to live in a way that feels honest and aligned with who we really are.